We're actually honored to have our next guest in the studio with us. He doesn't do interviews unless it's with George Knapp. He's been harassed almost constantly in the last 7 years since you came out with this information. Boblazar is with us. UFO Week. Right. Cool dude.
So you're the man that came out in, what year was it, 1988?
Yeah, late 1988, yeah.
Came out on Channel 8 News in silhouette. You didn't show your face.
Right.
Told all the stories about what actually happened at Area 51. This is before all the stories came out about UFOs and extraterrestrials and all that. You're the guy that actually came out and divulged the information.
Right.
How long did you work there, and what was your job?
Before what?
Before you came out and told the stories.
Right. That you were able to gather all this information.
It wasn't that long. I would just say a few months.
Yeah.
I really can't remember.
Yeah.
But,
what did you do? What did you do out there?
Actually, my job was back engineering one of the alien crafts, specifically the power and propulsion system of that craft.
Back engineering. So, I mean, that means they have the craft and you had to figure out what made it work.
We start with the finished product, and we work backwards in trying to essentially discover the manufacturing process and the materials used.
Was it crashed or was it in one piece?
No, it was in perfect condition. It was in one piece.
Wow. What did it look like?
Yeah. Like I always say, the typical flying saucer, but it essentially does something like you'd see in the movies. It's a sleek, 52.8 foot in diameter, about 16 feet high craft.
Wow.
Did you get that thing fired up and running?
Not personally, but they have run it through several test flights. And
really?
I was in the hangar when one of them was, when that particular one was test flown.
Well, what was your impetus? What was the kind of straw that broke the camel's back that made you come out and start saying some of the things that you saw going on there?
Boy, that's a really long story.
Okay,
it was many smaller events that happened and began to get me concerned. And I initially confided in a couple friends, and at that time, no one really had heard of anything going on out there, and I had the flight schedule, the test flights, so I knew the dates and times of the tests. And on one particular night, I took myself and a few friends out there just to show them what I was talking about. And back then you could get in pretty far. The security really wasn't that great. And, they all got to witness the test, and, we repeated that several times until we finally got caught.
Wow. Now, this was the craft that you had been working on that they were flying, testing. Okay.
So what was it made of? Did you analyze it? What was the propulsion system? I mean, what was this thing all about?
The propulsion system was a gravitational propulsion system, and for those people that are into physics or into science, it's kind of the gap that we have in science right now. We know what gravity is and what it does, but we have no way to make it. And the reason that a gravity propulsion system is such a revolution in a way to propel something is that gravity has a really neat effect in that it bends space and distorts time. And this isn't a theory, we know this for a fact, that we can see stars that are behind the sun that are blocked from our view by the sun by the fact that the sun's gravitational field bends space around it so we can see behind it.
Wow.
And any system that would use something like this, any craft, would certainly be, an amazing way.
So it didn't need, fuel? It didn't need...
It did. It had an extremely advanced reactor.
Is that the beryllium thing that we were hearing about, or no? Something different. Okay.
The beryllium.
We're trying to keep up with this.
Yeah, no, I don't know what that guy's talking about, but it has nothing to do with alien craft. The reactor, there's essentially three forms of nuclear reactions. Fission reaction, which is, you'd see in an atomic bomb, and in common reactors, a fusion reaction, which you'd see in a hydrogen bomb, and those are reactors we're currently working on to develop. And then there's a total annihilation reaction, which is a matter-antimatter reaction. And the reaction there is so much more efficient than the other two. In a fission or fusion reaction, you may only get 1 to 10% of the fuel converted to energy. In an antimatter reactor, you'd get 100% conversion. So it's extremely powerful and compact.
But it doesn't take a lot of this stuff so for long voyages, they wouldn't have to have huge fuel tanks or anything.
Well, there are no long voyages.
Really?
Yeah. The craft does not fly for very long.
No kidding.
So what, they come from a mothership or something?
No, they can traverse tremendous distances
in a short time.
However, they don't fly in a linear mode. They don't just cruise around in space like a normal spaceship would. They would essentially bend the fabric of space. It's very tough to say without demonstrating.
Somebody like me that flunked Algebra 2, I would not get it.
Well, these are concepts also that we're not normally dealing with because we don't have any
normally. I mean,
comparison.
We've known they can theoretically exist, but because there's no way to generate an intense gravitational field, we can observe things like we can observe what we think are black holes that exert a tremendous gravitational force, so much so that they slow down time around them, and that we can see space as bent. So if you could actually create something like a black hole, an intense gravitational field like that, you could bend space. And because time is distorted, you're not essentially elapsing as much time as you normally would. So you can almost jump from point to point.
Well, this is very exciting stuff. I mean, for someone like you to work with this, it must have been an incredible
this
opportunity.
was my dream. You know, I could really care less about aliens, whatever the technology is, what I was interested in. I was fortunate enough to.
Well, what did you do before that? How did you get the invitation to come out and work on this thing?
I had worked before that at Los Alamos National Labs in New Mexico. Essentially the Meson Physics Division, working with the particle accelerator. While there, Edward Teller, who's the father of the hydrogen bomb, was giving a lecture, and I went with a couple of colleagues to see him there. We got there early, and coincidentally, that day I was on the front page of the Los Alamos newspaper, because I had built a jet car, and they had an article on it. And Dr. Teller was outside reading the article, so I introduced myself to him, and we had talked for a while. Time had passed. I moved to Las Vegas. I quit the lab. I was kind of burnt out on science, and went into some bizarre things out here. And later on, I decided to re-enter the field, and I sent resumes out to places where I either like to live or work, including the test site here, EGNG, and I also sent one to Dr. Teller, referencing our meeting that we had, some years ago. And he remembered me. And what he did was say there was someone at EGNG, not that worked at EGNG, but that there would be an interview set up for me if I was interested. And I went down, had the interview, and I was told that what the job entailed is I was going to be working on an advanced propulsion system, which was great. That's exactly what I wanted to do. Sure. And I thought, this is going to be the next generation fighter aircraft or something. I had no idea we were going to be working in reverse from something that was created, a great distance away.
So what a shock when you found out what your job entailed.
Yeah, I would say that was a shock.
And did they enforce secrecy? Did they tell you you're not allowed to talk about this? Or
everything. I had signed, essentially signed away my constitutional rights to a fair trial. If I was convicted, there's a 10-year in jail, $10,000 fine automatically imposed for divulging information. I had signed authorization to have my phone monitored, and so it was a very strange time in my life, and it began to build up this paranoia because, you begin to think, well, if they're monitoring my phone, these guys are following me around, is my house bugged? I mean, you begin to lose your mind. And I don't see how everyone else was dealing with it there, but it became increasingly difficult for me.
So did you do what they wanted you to do? Did you figure out how to put that propulsion system into like a modern day fighter? Is that what they were trying to do?
Yeah, well, they just wanted to be able to make more of them. And the bottom line is no one's going to be making more of those.
Just because you can't make that gravitational.
My analogy to this is you can take a brand new Honda dirtbike and drop it off, in the times of wagon trains and so forth in the Old West, and everyone will gather around it and say, wow, look at this. Eventually, diddling with it, they will figure out how to start it, and eventually they will become proficient in riding it. And when it runs out of fuel, the party's over.
Right.
That's it. They will, the plastic on the thing will amaze them. They'll never even be able to make that, much less the Honda label on the side. So this is exactly the situation we're in. It's like, it's a prized toy, and you can't do anything with it at all, and they're afraid of losing it, so they're not going to take it out of the atmosphere. But, they have done several tests just under mountaintop level, and bring it back down and say, wow.
So is it out of gas now?
No, they have a sufficient fuel supply for it, but, there's just not a whole lot that we can do.
Man, they could strap some bombs on underneath it and fly over and visit Saddam with it,
Well, I wouldn't doubt that they would eventually use it for that.
Well, is that the only craft that's out there?
No, there were actually 9.
There's 9?
Yeah, each one being different. And now I don't know this for a fact, but I assume that they've been collections either from other countries or whatever. I don't know how we talked them out of crash retrievals or whatever, but I don't know that they're crash retrievals. I don't know where they came from. And I was only allowed inside and to work on one of them, so I know nothing about the other craft, other than that they all look different.
What about the pilots?
I don't know.
The little dudes that drove them.
Where they are, I don't know.
You never heard anything
I don't know
about
if these things fell out of the sky unpiloted or, there's certainly accommodations for them inside. But this one, 52-foot craft only fit 3 beings. There are only 3 seats inside.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Is Area 51 are there underground
I've heard all
areas
kinds of stories.
where these crafts are they above ground or underground?
Well, more specifically, this is an area called S4, which is 15 miles south of Groom Lake. Now, everyone just says Area 51, and I've just gotten tired of correcting everybody.
Okay.
Area 51 is a place where they develop a whole host of things, like
But they had the stealth out
the stealth,
there.
everything. I mean, there are thousands of people working there. There are no flying saucers at Area 51.
Okay.
It's you just couldn't keep something like that secret there. That's why it is specifically separated down at S4, and it's not that far from Area 51, so I guess you can call it part of the Groom Lake complex. But where I work, there was only 22 other scientists, and it's a small installation. Well, the installation is fairly large to house the craft, but as far as the complement of people, it's fairly small.
Did you live out there and live right on the facility? Did they keep you out
No, there were some people that did, and
they chained him to the craft. They kept him there.
But I flew in and out. Now, I flew from McCarran, because at that time, EG&G was out at McCarran. They've since moved it to Nellis Air Force Base, but I flew out of McCarran, landed at Groom Lake, and they put us on a bus and drove south down to Papoose Lake Bed.
Well, your life has just been turned upside down, inside out, scrutinized, and it's amazing that you've had the stability that you've had in the last 7 years having come out. You have people that even call you the modern-day Messiah.
Yeah.
I mean, you've had
true
all...
lunatics, yeah.
True lunatics.
Would you like to talk to some of the true lunatics, meaning our good listenership on the phone, or?
And I understand they're
necessary?
Well, not necessarily.
They're even doing a story on your life. They're doing a movie about you now. Is that true?
Yeah, that should be out next year. And in fact, they're kind of going all out. They're building a full-size installation against the side of a mountain out here when they do that filming.
Wow.
I can't imagine your level of paranoia when you came out and talked about this, or when you realized that you were being
Well, that was
followed.
part of it, doing it in silhouette and so forth. And now it's been 5 years since this happened.
And you're alive.
Chances are that installation isn't even there anymore, and much less them doing any tests out there. But I don't know.
I guess we need to take a quick break. Do we, Dave?
We can play some tunage. So we're just going to shut up and rock and roll.
Take some calls.
And maybe we can take some calls, and we're talking to one of the foremost experts in the field, UFO Week, with Lark and Craig, Comp 92.3, the Rock of Los.
Do we have to do commercials before we talk to Bob, or what, Producer Dave?
Go ahead and talk to Bob for a second.
Do we have some people on the phone?
And we will have that in a second.
Okay, we'll have that in a second.
Yes, they're on hold.
Boblazar, who worked at the Area 51 back in the early years, and is the person who went on Channel 8 and revealed all the secrets about UFOs and alien craft and everything that went on at Area 51 has since then become pretty much public knowledge, and the focus of a lot of special TV shows like Larry King just did a special from out there not too long ago. It was kind of strange.
I didn't get to see
they
that
wanted
one.
me to be on that, and I turned them down.
Yeah.
They pretty much hammered me on that.
You've turned a lot of people down. In fact, you don't do interviews, do you?
No, very, very rarely.
Well, except with George Knapp, and that's about it. I know we had to twist his arm quite a bit to get him on the show today. Now, do you think because it's the 90s and a lot of this is that's been held secret from us that the government has been doing over the years has come to light? Do you think that information will come out, that they'll finally come clean with it, or not?
No,
You really don't?
Why are they hiding it from us?
Yeah.
I don't know. Why do you think they're hiding it from us?
Probably national security. They want to take this propulsion system they had you working on, put it in fighter jets.
Maybe, but, why can't they at least release the part saying, by the way, this happened and we're keeping, all the specifics about it secret? I don't know. And, I'm sure you've heard, everyone's speculation about that, but, you have to look at, if people claim they can't keep stuff like that secret. Well, look, the stealth was in operation in, the late 70s, and it didn't become public knowledge right until they wanted it to. There were thousands of people working on that, and, you look at other projects like that. Look at other stuff the government...
women in the...
Yeah, in the 50s, they were feeding women Fallout. We never
pregnant
do that either,
Fallout.
So, these are a group of nasty guys.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they are.
Well, we do have some listeners on the phone that were lucky enough to get in, and I guess we're going to talk to them now? Okay. Hi, Comp. Good morning. If you ask if they use unleaded or regular, you're out of here.
We're going to slap you. Here's Bob Lazar. What do you want to know?
Okay, that contract you mentioned he signed about 10 years in jail, why isn't he in jail now?
The secrecy agreement?
That's a good question. Probably because they became public with it. Of course, if they decided to prosecute, they'd have to admit that everything I said was true, so I imagine they're at an impasse there.
I see.
You just didn't want to admit it then.
No, didn't want to bring any more attention to it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Comp, good morning.
Hello.
What's your question?
Yeah, Bob, I just basically wanted to tell the listeners out there, after they tried to get you for pandering, that was my apartment building, as a matter of fact. I lived right next door to that. And I just wanted to let everybody know that that is totally false. I never saw you around there or any prostitutes, and just wonder how you feel about that.
Actually, that's only partially false. What I did was, this was, of course, after I left the project, is I had written some computer software to make brothels run smoother.
Oh,
really? Yeah, and there was an illegal brothel running in town there, and who bought the software from me, and it did get me in trouble. That was technically aiding and abetting prostitution. So, interestingly enough,
You sneaky guy.
but I guess punishment for it, I had to perform community service, and interestingly enough, the community service I had to perform was installing the same computer system for Clark County. I guess it was good enough for them.
To make your credibility look bad.
Yeah, they did. Well, at the time, I was in the middle of the news, and, they looked at that as the perfect vehicle to hammer this into the ground. Sure. And it was, and actually it kind of helped out because it got a lot of the heat off me.
Well, it certainly helped me believe. I was somewhat skeptical, but after that, I was a true believer.
Thank you for your call.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
So what was in the software? What kind of software do you have?
You don't need to know.
All right. Hi, Comp. Good morning.
Hi, what's your question for Bob? Hello?
It's an alien.
He's been abducted.
That's okay. All of his brain comes
Hey,
back.
Comp, what's your question for Bob?
I was watching the afternoon that he was on with George Knapp, and I saw the documents that he brought on that were all blacked out. And essentially what was said afterwards, because that whole show went off the air and was gone, and essentially what was said afterwards was that they literally wiped him out as a person. He had no medical records, no school records, no nothing. Now, my husband and I do a lot of what we call UFOing, going out and checking out and looking for things. And we have seen some very unusual things in the sky late at night, especially up by Sheep Mountain. My worry is that some of these people are going to come up out of wherever and do the same thing to us. And I want to know if that's a distinct possibility.
I don't know. I guess it depends what level of threat you present to them.
Let's talk about that. Thank you for your call.
You're welcome.
It is interesting that your life, did that happen to you? They tried to wipe you out. They did try and discredit you. That happened. That continues to happen.
Oh, sure.
What, like school records, medical records?
Yeah, just about everything. One of the best ones was, and why I don't understand, because it's just not that effective. They had... I worked at Los Alamos National Labs for quite a while, and, if you call and ask, if I had ever worked there, they say no, absolutely not.
Really?
However, I'm in the phone book. I'm on the front page of the paper, back in the Times, stating that I worked there. My colleagues and friends are still there. I said, oh yeah. In fact, I had taken George Knapp to Los Alamos, brought him inside the lab to speak to some of my, co-workers and colleagues, and they said, yeah, Bob used to work here and this and that, and showed him around where I used to work. So what is the point?
What about, I bet you still get a bill from the IRS, don't you?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, if they wiped you out, if the government wanted to wipe you out, that would be part of it. You still pay taxes.
Actually, there's a big gap in my IRS records. I let one of these UFO researchers, I can't remember his name, go track down, I gave him signed permission to go track down IRS records to see, exactly what was deposited in my Social Security account and from where, and there's a big gap that occurs in there, which is, really interesting.
During the time you were working at Los Alamos and Area 51?
All the way up to, a few years in Las Vegas.
So it doesn't show any records of Masons.
They say I have no contributions, of...
You were unemployed, basically.
Yes, I was unemployed, which is...
Haven't you been blackballed by the scientific community? And in fact, Mr. Teller, is how you got the job out there, won't even speak to you? Is that true?
No, I don't think he would. No.
They're not happy with you.
I would say that. Well, I certainly can't get a clearance anymore, and that's unfortunate because a lot of the neat stuff to do in science is all of reasonably high security. So that leaves that out. Interestingly enough, I do own a company, and it does have a contract with Los Alamos Labs, though I don't think that Los Alamos Labs knows who owns the company. But that's about the only thing I'm doing as far as science right now. We design and build and repair radiation detectors.
What about this model that's out now? That's like the hottest model on the market right now. You can buy it at all the hobby stores.
Tester's company approached me with it, and they said, we want to make a flying saucer model, and would you help us? And initially I said no, and they said, well, then we're making one anyway, so you can help us make it accurate, or we can make it how we think it is. And so I essentially said, go for it. And gave them, actually it was one of the people that are working on the movie, people that are doing the special effects had already assimilated the model in computer data, so they can do the computer animation of the disc flying around, and so they essentially just gave that data to testers, just plug the disc in and it machined out parts. And in fact, the cover of that box is actually a clip, a one frame from the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And they won't tell you who they're considering to play the part because they know you can't keep a secret, right?
Right. Yeah, they did say that. But the last I did hear was John Malkovich.
But you're trying to keep it pretty accurate, pretty close to the truth, instead of what happened to Travis Walton in the movie Fire in the Sky. It was pretty hollowed out.
There were other companies, other movie companies that wanted to do it. Steven Seagal really, really wanted to do it. He still does. Warner Brothers did. Columbia wanted to, and I could have gotten an awful lot more money from those bigger companies, and I went with New Line, who left me with the impression that some of the guys had to sell their car
just to the movie,
just to buy the rights to it, and because it's just a little company, they didn't pay very much, but they let me not have right of script refusal, but things had to be technically correct and approved by me.
Good.
So that was worth a lot more to me than the money.
When can we expect the movie out?
Next year.
Hey, John Malkovich would be great for the role of boblazar.
Wow. Well, this has been very interesting. UFO Week, we have learned so much.
I know.
I mean, some of these things flew over my head like a low-flying spacecraft,
Well, what we try to do is remain open, take in all the information without judging it, without censoring it, without giving our opinion on it, because there is so much out there, so many different ways to look at it, and we just want to have the opportunity to have a forum where we can at least talk about it, unlike everything that's censored from your background.
So we appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, we sure do.
Appreciate it very much. And that's Bob Lazar, the man who, George Knapp, I'll bet, sends you a nice Christmas card every year, doesn't he?
Well, George and I have become good friends, so he's...
His life was totally changed by meeting you. His life, his career, I mean, look at what's happened to him in the last 7 years.
Yeah, I guess that's true. He's the UFO guy.
Yeah, he is. He certainly is. He gave us a copy of the thing he made, the three video series of the special. It's not even available yet.
Yeah, well, if George is listening, I have never got a copy of that.
Uh-oh.
Ruh-roh. And Bob, it's interesting that you really don't have any interest in the alien part of it, in
no,
the
I'm actually
where-tos,
not
the
interested in
wherefores.
the topic at all. I don't want to talk UFOs. I don't want to hear UFO stories. I don't want to listen to abductees. I am not interested.
And everybody has come after you, right?
Yeah, maybe that's why.
Well, it's very, very interesting stuff, and we appreciate you coming on today with us, Bob Lazar. Look forward to seeing the movie.
Well, thanks.
Good luck with that.
And I guess we're going to wrap up the UFO week with a very special all request hour. Every Friday we do all requests. And this one, we want you to use your brains. We're going to do like all UFO, alien, space, anything you can think of that has a sort of a tie into UFO week. It's the all request hour, a special one, and that'll be next.